All right. Hello, Pinky. Thank you so much for joining us. So I have Sue Benson, who's, kind of, we'll say handle is Pinky. What I'm going to have you do real quick, Sue, is just do a quick little overview for people of your background with video so that people have a little bit of context here for our conversation.
Okay. So thank you for having me, John. I'm excited to be here. So my name is Sue Pinky Benson, and my tagline really is more Pinky Knows Naples or Pinky Knows Southwest Florida. But my journey with video actually started probably 9 years ago. It was a while ago. So it was long before doing video was the thing that you had to do. It was something that I did that people are like, what the heck is she doing? So it's been a journey. I mean, I got into real estate after having a background in broadcast journalism. So you might think that like the idea of going into video was very smooth and just like, oh, that makes sense. But it really wasn't until I saw Katie Lance for the first time in person, who's one of my mentors. And she was talking about video and using it in real estate that this pink light bulb went off. And I was like, oh, I could do this and I could do this and I could bring it together. So it wasn't just that easy click moment. It wasn't until somebody like literally said it, like, hey, you should be doing video, that I was like, oh, now I get it. But I've been doing real estate for over a decade, and video has been my marketing platform. And, I was talking to John beforehand, and it's funny because what I used to be known for was my listing videos. And now that I'm more into the buying side, where I work with a lot of buyers, not to say that I don't have listings, but they're less than what I used to have. I used to be primarily a listing agent, so everything was video in regards to that. Now it's, switched, and it's about community videos and showcasing parts of my neighborhood and my Naples and Southwest Florida, and that's a big part of it. And then showcasing not my foreclosures, but the foreclosures in my community. I go out and I do videos about that. And then, talking through Instagram stories and Facebook stories, the behind the scenes of what goes into the day of a real estate agent, which is a great video base now that I find people really relate to, because, you put up a post on Facebook, whether it's just text or it's a video, and people tend to think that that's your entire day. Like, I don't know why, but they think like, oh, that must have taken her hours to do. And it's like, for me, it's like, oh, it's 10 minutes out of my day. So when they see the behind the scenes of, oh, she did that video and she went to show five listings to a buyer, and she negotiated a contract, and she put a lockbox on her new listing, like all of those little things that you think are crazy, stupid, and nobody cares, mundane, it's crazy, but these people are embracing it in a whole new way because they want to know more about your day. And yeah, they do care where you drop your dry cleaning off. It's the most bizarre thing, but they do. So, but I mean, it's really not like, if you think about reality TV, when that first came out, like when Survivor first came out, and I remember the tagline kind of for Survivor was, it was going to be like a live Gilligan's Island, right? So I'm sure you in your 20s, John, you don't know what Gilligan's Island is, but it was a show in the 60s. And it was like this idea that they were going to put people on an island and just film them. Now we know that a lot of it is staged and they have scripts and everything, but we love reality. We crave reality, even if it's staged, even if it's HGTV, House Hunters, 3 houses, they pick a house. We know it's staged, we know it's script, but people still want that reality. And I think that's the opportunity you get when you get to use video. So did I kind of go a little over there?
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. All right. Well, one thing that I've heard you talk about before, and we've talked about before, and that you're very open about, which is wonderful, is that a lot of the negativity you've gotten from other people, right? And I know that for a lot of people who, listen to this podcast, watch this channel, one of the things that holds them back from being more active and more visible, especially through video, is the fear of negativity from other people and what other people are going to say. Both people who are close to you saying, who do you think you are? What are you doing? And then, of course, those internet haters and those internet trolls that everyone has to deal with as well.
And
So,
I think that's where the big separation comes with haters. And you really, really got to understand this. The haters that just are trolling on Instagram, Facebook, and they're just putting up comments just to make themselves feel better. And they have like a fake profile and they're not real. And you can tell that they just do this to get their joys in life, which is really pathetic in my opinion. But those types of haters, like, they don't even hit my radar. Like, you're just ridiculous. You're just having a bad day. I feel sorry for you. The haters that are hard are the people that are around you. that you actually know, maybe you like, maybe you trust. And that's the hard part. I mean, and yeah, I've had my fair share over, you know, the last decade of people that didn't always embrace what I was doing. You know, whether it was my pink hair, my mom is not a fan of the pink hair. I have to tell you, every time I see her, she's like, "Oh, you've got that hair again," you know, like, you know, you know, and just from my mom's side, my mom's in her 80s. So I live in a community where the average age is 65 and older. So a lot of the people, the consumers in my area, they see pink hair and they kind of have the same attitude that my mom has. So what can I learn from my mom that, you know, can translate into my clients, which is, you know what, I may have pink hair, I may have purple hair, I may have, you know, blonde hair. I still have a brain in my head, and let me show you that I know my stuff, and the color of my hair makes no difference. And honestly, on that sense, when you have a hater of that degree that they're going to judge you on something as superficial as a hair color, they're not my ideal candidate for a person I want to work with, because we all judge, but I don't live in a place of judgment, you know, and I know there's a fine line there, but yeah, when it comes to haters, the people that are closest to you are the ones that you have your antenna up for and you're worried about. Or it's maybe another real estate agent, God forbid, I'm saying this out loud, but a lot of times the other haters are your competition. And there are other real estate agents that maybe you thought were your friend, but they're talking about you behind your back. And here's the God's honest truth, guys. Those people are talking about you, whether you do a video or not, whether you post on social media or not, they're still talking about you. Like, oh, I can't believe she just had that closing. How did she get that listing? They are still saying it. And I think that a lot of, we were talking about this, is that I think a lot of times we don't talk about the haters because we don't want to give them power. We don't want to give them the justification that what they're doing is being heard and taken in. But I don't go for it. I don't like bullying. It's not something that I've been bullied in my life. And so maybe I'm a little more sensitive to it, but I also realize that there's one life, and I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it. And it may not be the way you want it, but as long as I'm happy and I'm successful in my world, and my success is not always based on what the number of my bank account, it's based on my happiness and my family's happiness. I'm okay with that. And you just have to get to that point where you say, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it for 30 days or 60 days. And I'm going to put my head down and I'm not going to listen to it. And trust me, I know that that's hard. I mean, talked about my mom. I'll talk about my husband for a second. For years, my husband was like, what in the world are you doing? He's always like, his catchphrase to me is, I never know what you're doing. You know, like it's always been that way with, you know, our relationship, which is probably why it works. But, you know, and it wasn't until he crossed over and became my partner in real estate that now he starts to understand it. And now he's doing videos, and now he's posting on social media, and he sees like, oh, you know, I haven't heard from that friend in 20 years. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, what's that house you have in Bonita Springs that's for sale? So, you know, that's where the power comes in of, okay, so I have people over here questioning what I'm doing, but I just got a deal out of what I'm doing. So, you know, that pays my bills. So, you know what, go judge on your own time. You know, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Have you ever been, you know, harshly criticized, you know, in a more negative way by someone more successful than you?
Yeah. There was, you know, I don't like to get too in depth because then it's like, oh, well, you know, now I'm focusing on one person. But yes, there was a woman who I had considered a mentor at one time in the real estate business. And I found out like all the little things that she was saying about me, what I was doing behind my back. And I will tell you, it was very hurtful. Even now, just thinking about it, you know, it put a dent into my heart. And that to me, it's what I have come to understand is that that's not about me. That's about who she is and who she's striving to be, which is not a person that I want to be. And that can be very difficult to understand because it is, you know, this is my friend, this is a mentor, you know, she's more successful than I am. But at the same time, she's never once done a video. She's never once really put herself out on social media. She's a meme sharer, you know, she's not
Yeah.
she's not somebody who is, in my opinion, authentically herself. And if that is who she is authentically, you know, I really wish her the best of luck.
I really got help her. Oh man, it's interesting. So, Brene Brown has written a lot of books. One of her most popular ones called Daring Greatly. And it's really all about this whole topic of vulnerability and showing up authentically as you are, rather than, you know, trying to keep your armor up, try to keep your guard up. And one of the things she says is her rule of thumb is that she never cares or accepts input or criticism or even pays any attention to the criticisms of people who are not also in the arena, right? Yeah. Showing up, making themselves vulnerable. So though this one individual was more successful when it comes to dollar bills, right, when she was, you know, selling in real estate, it sounds like she was not someone who was alongside you in the arena, making herself vulnerable, putting her own content out there, which means by Brene Brown's rule, she's someone that you shouldn't care about her opinion in that area.
Right. She lived in a safe zone, safe in what she has always done, has always worked. And I'm not going to change or become anything different than what I am. And nor should you, because we should all stay the same. And we live in a world that there is no same, there is no average there. Everything is, you know, what you make it to be, really. But yeah, I mean, in Daring Greatly, you know, her opening with Teddy Roosevelt and his quote about, you know, when you're in the arena, yes, you do hear, you know, the haters, the people out there, but you have to realize that you're the one in the arena. And unless they're standing beside you in that arena, they don't get to have a voice in your world. Like, it's very easy. Like I said, it's very easy to judge, right? But have you ever stopped yourself when you're in the midst of a judgment? I know I have. And I've said, well, why do I feel that way? Where did that judgment come from? And typically it's a learned behavior, something that maybe my parents taught me because they came from a completely different generation. You know, and I think that that's really the most valuable thing is when you're in a place of judgment, stopping and saying, why am I judging on this? What is it that makes me think that I'm right and that they're wrong? And that's kind of the same idea when you're talking about the arena and people that are in there. If they're working hard and they're hustling and they're doing the best that they can do and they're not hurting anyone in the process, which I think is really key. And it is for me, I know it is for you, John, is that if I'm just trying to be a better person and I'm just trying to do something to feed my family and I'm not doing it to hurt anyone else, why do you care? Because it's different than you, you know? And it is a hard road, because when you're in that arena and you're stripped down and you're vulnerable and you're putting yourself out there, you know, there is a huge amount of judgment that takes place. And, you know, you have to keep your head down and you have to stay focused. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, there have been times where I'm like, why, you know, like, well, why are they picking on me? Why? And, but my criticisms, I always said, like, I'm open to constructive criticism. I'm one of the, you know, I'm the type of person that says, okay, you know, please give me constructive criticism on a video. I sent one to you the other day. And I said, here, I just want you to watch this video and tell me what you think. Now, constructive criticism does not mean that you have the right to tell me that my hair looks like, you know, you don't like the pink shade of my hair or my lipstick color isn't. That's not constructive criticism. I'm talking about the content of the video, the way it is filmed. Does it look good? Does my message convey? That's constructive criticism. If it's not something that I should be putting out there, that's constructive criticism. And I think people get so sensitive when they're doing videos because they are in a vulnerable place. And part of my secret in doing a video, you're probably going to laugh at, I rarely go back and watch my videos. And like the fact that I sent you one the other day, like that's not something I normally do. But I needed different opinions because the topic was a little bit more, I don't know if I would use the word aggressive, John. What would you say? It was just a little more, the tone could be taken in a different way, I guess. And so I wanted to make sure my tone was aligned with my thought process and it didn't come off in the bad way. But so many people will go back and they watch their video, whether it's a bomb video or it's a Facebook Live, and they go back and they do it over and over and over again until they see that it's perfect. Perfect is not what people want. We talked about reality, you know, they want to know that you mess up, that you're not perfect, that you're not a commercial, you know, and there's a whole generation, and lucky for you, you don't have it, but my generation, we grew up with commercials. So a lot of real estate agents feel that their videos have to be this commercial. Yeah. And here's the thing. What did you do when a commercial came on regular TV? You got up and you went to the bathroom, you went to get something to eat. Now we swipe, now we look down, now we look at our phones. Like, we don't watch or engage with commercials. What we engage with is the entertainment value. So then you think about like the Super Bowl. Well, we watch those commercials because why?
Yeah.
They're entertaining. They're not your typical, like, hey, I'm here to sell you insurance. Like, now we have a little lizard running around telling us why we need Geico, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, he has absolutely nothing to do with the insurance process, and yet we are engaged and we're entertained. And that's what people need to understand is that, yeah, you don't have to be funny, you don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be a little bit of entertainment. You have to add some sort of value in your video so that people want to come back for more. If you're constantly doing videos that add no value, that are not interesting, that you're not engaging with your audience, then they're not going to show up for the next one.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Sure. So we talked a little bit about, other people's negativity, right? And how you kind of separate that out. And it seems like the rule of thumb that you sounds like might be using as well is kind of what Rene Brown said, right? If you're alongside me also in this process together, being vulnerable, I want to hear what you have to say. If you're sitting there in the stands, all protected by your armor, not willing to put yourself out there, your opinion doesn't mean very much to me.
Mm-hmm.
What about your own negativity, right? So we talk about the negativity of others coming at you, but as you started doing these things, videos when no one else is doing videos, you're one of the first people to really start actively using Facebook Live in your area as a business tool, right? Not just as, some teenager having fun type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any of your own negativity, your own negative self-talk that you had to work through as well?
I'll tell you, and my story a little bit, but I will tell you that when Facebook Live came out, I had just gone to boot camp with Jesse Peters and Michael Thorne, who are my video mentors. Michael Thorne was the very first person that did constructive criticism on one of my listing videos. And I was so thankful. I mean, this guy from Canada, I'm down in Florida, tiny little town at this point. I'm not in Naples. And he took the time to go through a 6-minute video and tell me, first of all, 6 minutes is way too long.
Yeah.
And he kind of critiqued it and helped me, to become better. And that really mattered. So I went to his boot camp with Jesse and I learned a lot. And I came back with the intention of doing 30 videos in 30 days. And that was my intention. And then Facebook Live came out. And I was like, wow, like as much as I have a background in broadcast journalism, as much as I know how to edit videos, as much as I can sit down at a computer and edit a video, I am not one that likes to spend my time editing videos. That's why I like doing it on my phone, because I can do it in the moment while Josh is driving the car and I'm editing a video. Yeah. I don't like sitting down, and that's a videographer. And in many ways, that's not what I am, even though it's not, So back in that time frame when Facebook Live came out, I was like, well, this is amazing. Like, I don't have to edit anything and I can just roll with it and I can just, just do it. And so I started to research and think about like, okay, what do I want to talk about? And I started doing a show every Friday talking, it was Pinky Knows Naples. And I literally was talking to myself. I wasn't interviewing anybody. I was walking down Fifth Avenue in downtown Naples, giving off fun facts about, things that had happened on Fifth Avenue. And over here used to be, the pharmacy. And this is where, so-and-so landed his plane. And this used to be a golf course. And people love that kind of stuff. But yeah, in the beginning, I know my husband's best friend, he said, like, what is she, a travel agent or a real estate agent? They didn't get it. What am I selling? What am I trying to do? But it was bringing awareness to my brand that I was creating. But as I said, my story is that I had lost my son, or we had lost our son a year prior to this. So I was still very, very deep. You're always mourning when you lose someone, but I was very deep in the grief process. And so this became my hobby and my outlet. And I really didn't care. I really, like, when you're in that depth of grief, you get to a point where you're just like, this is it. This is what life is. Why do I care what Mary Jo from Indiana thinks of my video? I don't know her. I don't care. I don't care that everybody in town, because at that point I was told when I first joined one of the real estate groups here, oh, and this was a young woman. She said, oh, no one here gives a tweet about how many followers you have. Like they didn't even care about Facebook. They had no understanding of Facebook whatsoever. So when I started doing this, it was literally when the 65 plus generation was starting to get onto Facebook. So it worked well for me at that time. But did I get business from it? No, I did not. You know, and I think that that's where people have to understand the growing of your business and the brand. Because I obviously train a lot of agents on video, and they'll come to me and they'll say, well, I've been doing a video for 30 days, or I've done a video every week for the last 3 months, and I haven't gotten any business. Yeah. Okay. Have you made cold calls too? Because you're going to find the same results with cold calls, right? You're going to see the same results with your postcards. We know that business is created over a long period of time. And I did these every Friday, and it was my outlet. It was my way of getting myself out of the house, making sure that I did something that I found value in, that I loved. And that was the way I got myself out of it, is by doing that. I mean, there was a point where I went on a trolley ride across Naples, and it was me and the trolley guy in the middle of July. And there was nobody else on the trolley. You know, I'm talking to the trolley guy. I'm learning all kinds of things about Naples. My husband, who grew up here, is like, I didn't know that. Like, why are you on the trolley? But it was my way of getting myself out there, you know, and what it did was build my brand. And so the awareness came, but I'm in a very difficult market. I read a stat recently that in Florida, 1 out of 91 people have their real estate license. And I really think that here in Naples, it's probably 3 out of every 5 people, because it is such a thing to have, not necessarily to use, but to have. And that's a lot of competition to break through. And it, like I said, older generations, so they don't necessarily understand the power of social media and what it means to have a listing video out there on social media, or showcase different parts of the town. You know, shouldn't you be selling houses and not walking up and down Fifth Avenue? They don't get it. So I understand your frustrations. You're out there doing the video, but you have to understand that you're doing this to bring brand awareness. It's like the billboard of the 1980s. It's like the bus bench of the 90s. This is what you do to get your face in front of these people. And does that work? Yeah. I mean, my daughter won't go to Publix with me anymore, because we go into the grocery store and they're like, is that Pinky? Yeah. So, you know, I mean, but it has to translate to business, and you have to be able to hang on there long enough to know. And there are things that you do need to judge yourself on when it comes to video, which is if you're doing Facebook Lives consistently, and you're doing them once a week, and you're not seeing a growth. Okay. If you're not seeing new comments from new people, if you're not seeing comments, if you're not seeing engagement, these are little things that you're like, okay, what could I do to make this better? And that's where you go and you ask for the constructive criticism. That's where you have to look at it. You know, I mean, it used to be really easy to get views with Facebook Live. You could just go on and boom, I'd have 1,000. Now I have to work harder because there's so many more people doing it. The timeline has become more saturated. So you really have to think, well, is this valuable enough for me to do a Facebook Live on it? Like, used to be you do the open houses, you know, oh, everybody wants it. Now people are like, I have seen enough open house, you know. So it's definitely something that you have to keep up on the trends, and you have to keep your, you know, eye on the ball, and you have to adjust yourself, you know.
So let me ask you this: as you were doing these things, which were by a lot of people's estimate outlandish, right, ridiculous, what does she think she's doing? As you were doing these things and not seeing immediate results from them, did you have this internal feeling that you knew you were doing the right thing and you knew you were onto something, so you pushed through it anyways? Or did you have no idea if you were doing the right thing or not, and you just did your way through it, unsure as to whether or not this would all pay off?
No, you know what? I felt like I was doing the right thing. I was following this guy, Gary V.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Gary at the time was very hardcore Facebook Live, like he is now on TikTok, I think, and Instagram. And he's been right. You know, the majority of times he's right. Now, you know, there's been some platforms that fell flat, but at that time he was my mentor. He still is, but, you know, he was like hardcore in my brain. I listened to him every day. And I think that that also helps with the naysayers, is if you have someone that you listen to on a daily basis, whether it's like Tom Ferry, I mean, I'll turn him on some mornings and get my quick little real estate, like, oh, that's a good idea. And that makes me want to go, go, go. Or even if it's a flash briefing, you know, my friend Dustin Brome, he does a flash briefing, massive agent podcast. It's like, you know, what, a 2-minute thing? But some days that's just what I need to hear, you know? And I think that if you turn on the radio and instead of putting on music, you put on something that's going to motivate you, like, you know, Adam Contos does a podcast. He's the CEO of Remax. You know, they have great little get you going. And if you can surround yourself with that kind of noise in your head that's telling you, hey, this is what I think is right. You know, it's always been, no matter, I don't care if there's social media or whatever, everybody's always said, whoever you surround, the 5 people you surround yourself with is the people. Yeah. Those can be people that you listen to on the radio, which is podcasting, right? Yeah. These are the people you could be listening to and engaging with in your brain. Oh, he gets it. I get it. So seriously, like Gary Vee, like I met the man once in my life. I'm friends with his sister, but you know, that's about, I mean, I don't know him, you know, but knowing his voice and hearing him say, like, this is what you got to do to put yourself out there. It's free. Do it. And that kept my brain focused and said, well, you know, Gary Vee said this, right? So I don't care. You know?
So that's actually an interesting perspective I don't think I've heard on here before. So we just talked about all this negativity coming your way. And a lot of times the answer given when there's a ton of negativity coming your way is just, you know, bolster yourself up internally, use willpower, mental fortitude, and positive self-talk to work through the negativity, which is certainly part of it. But you're also saying there's another aspect of, well, if you got crap coming your way, let's just counterbalance it with positive stuff coming your way as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because, you know, like I said, I was very deep into the grief process, and it was very easy for me to be triggered to a negative place. So I had to put myself surrounded by positivity. So I remember I was like, Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, you know, what was the other? Brian Buffini was another one. These were people that already had podcasts. They already had videos on YouTube, and I could just turn them on. And even if it was just for the 10-minute ride to go pick my kids up from school, it gave me something to latch onto that was positive and that was, hey, you're doing the right thing. Even though I don't know these people, they don't know me, they don't know what the hell I'm doing. You know, but the positivity was just there. And it was like, okay, you know, this will get me through what I need to get through. And, you know, just turn down the volume on the negativity, because it's always going to be there. You're always going to have the negative. To find the positive is a little bit harder, you know, and then once you find it, you just hold on to it as tightly as you can.
Well, it's actually interesting. We kind of share that connection with Gary Vee a little bit. So I'm not like a huge follower of his or anything like that, but end of last year, 2019, second half of the year is when I really started thinking about this concept of like creating a lot of content for people who are struggling with getting confident on camera. And I went through a bunch of different iterations, but it never really crossed my mind that I could like have my own podcast, right? I feel like such a nobody. It seems almost comical to me, the idea that I have my own podcast, my YouTube channel. And it was actually reading Gary Vee's book, Crushing It, that made me realize, you know what? All these people out there who seem like they're somebody, who seem like they own and deserve their YouTube channel and their audience and their podcast, they all started out exactly like I am, which is like, I'm a nobody. What the hell am I doing? But they had the spark, they had the passion, they had the interest, and they just went with it. And now some of them have made it to where they are now. And I realized, while there's no guarantees, and statistically speaking, Jill, when you start a project like this, the odds are better that it doesn't explode and become a big thing. There's no difference between me in my beginning state and what they were like in their beginning state. Right. They just went for it. And I'm just sitting back here not going for it. So if you're in need of those positive messages, I highly recommend the book Crushing It by Gary Vee. I certainly would recommend Rene Brown's book, you know, Daring Greatly, to help you work through some of that. What recommendations would you have, Sue, as to
you know, the whole Gary Vee thing came to me as his book, right? It was Jab, 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 Right Hook. And it was just after we lost Sawyer, and our family did kind of this trip across the eastern seaboard. We went from Florida up to upstate New York, and we were weeks on the road. And at that point, I really had no, I didn't have the ability to read. per se. Like my focus was very quick, you know?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to read this jab, 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 right hook. I heard that it was about social media marketing, which was something I was already doing, but nobody else believed in what I was doing, you know, on social media. They thought I was supposed to be putting up pictures of my hamburgers or whatever. And I was using it for real estate. And so they were like, what in the world is she doing? And so I got this book and it was like my holy grail. And it was like, it was very easy to read because you could just flip like, okay, here's a section on LinkedIn. Here's a section on, you know, Facebook. I don't even know if they had Instagram at that point. I can't remember, but it was like, you know, you could flip through it and I could read one little section and then I would be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go and try this. And I remember one of them it was like a phone booth and it was like a pink phone booth. And I was like, oh, I'm going to take a picture of me. And it was like at a stop in the bathroom, like somewhere between here and New York.
Yeah.
But it was an idea that I got from the book. And that was the beginning of like, okay, like, you know, I can still be creative. I can still do something that's going to take me out of my grief for a few minutes that I can focus on. So that book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, I still firmly believe in that book because there's still ideas that are functionable. Like even if like, you know, one of the platforms is no longer existent, you know, like Tumblr, I don't even know. I think that's teenage girls, but I'm not quite sure. But, you know, there's different ones that aren't there. You know, you might not use Snapchat as much as, you know, back then.
That's cool. All right, one last question I'm kind of curious about. Because, you know, most people know that when you start creating content, video content, whether it's a YouTube channel, Facebook Lives, there is a long lag time before you start to see physical, tangible results. And for business people, those results are, you know, business and revenue coming in. Is your suggestion that you leave your why you're doing this as I want to get business and you just have a really long time horizon, like I'm going to do this for 2 years to see that business and that's what it's all about? Or is your suggestion you find another why that can kind of float you until you get there, right? So that in those moments you're saying, hey, it's been 6 months and I haven't gotten any business, you still have something else to turn to and say, well, that's not the only reason I'm doing this. I'm also doing this because of blank to help fuel you and get you there. What would you recommend?
So I honestly, I think it's a little bit of both because it's like, when I first started doing Pinky Knows Naples, I didn't want to include real estate in it. It was about Pinky Knows Naples. Like I didn't, because there are so many real estate agents, these shop owners don't know who I am. I don't want them to come in and think that I'm asking for them to endorse me as a real estate agent when they don't know me. And a lot of business owners will get very like, oh, well, you know, I have a friend who's a real estate agent, so I don't. So I didn't want it to be about real estate. I just wanted it to be Pinky Knows Naples. Here I am showcasing the local pet shop. And it wasn't about real estate. It was never about that. Now, if I went out and showcased one of my properties on a Pinky Knows Naples, that was usually me, my videographer, my photographer, my drone guy, whoever it was. And I was showcasing them and what they do to help me with a listing. But I kept the two identities almost separate because when you're doing the video, which is your question, is it has to be about more than you. And it has to be about the subject you're talking about, you know, and you want to make it fun. And it's not, hey, I'm here to sell you real estate, because people are just gonna, it's like if the car salesman got on and was like, hey, I want to sell you a car. It's like, give me something more than just, you know, give me the history of the car. Give me fun facts about the car. Tell me something about the car that makes it entertaining and interesting, right? So you have to have that too in the real estate realm. And I see so many people do videos and I call it, they take up their FaceTime, right? Whether it's a Facebook Live or a YouTube video, and all you see is them talking, you know, the whole time, and they're walking down the street, and here's the house over here, but they're like, oh yeah, that. Flip the camera around, show me the house. It can't be about you. It's got to be about that other thing that you're talking about. You don't need to be in every shot. So all my ladies out there that are like, I don't want to be on camera because I didn't do my makeup, I didn't do my hair. You don't need to be on the camera the entire time. Just say hello and goodbye and show something else and talk the entire time or interview somebody else.
Yeah, so cool. All right, well, thanks a ton for your time today. I absolutely loved getting a chance to talk with you about this. And I think a lot of what you had to share is going to help a lot of other people. And I also imagine a lot of people after listening to this interview are going to want to learn even more about you. So go ahead and let people know, you know, where they can find you on social media to engage with you more.
Sure. So on Instagram, it's going to be Pinky Knows Naples. Spend a lot of time in the stories realm, so you can get a lot of information about who I am there. If you want to learn about video, like when I do my webinars where I teach about Instagram or video editing from your phone or Instagram stories or any of that good stuff, I have a group on Facebook, Pinky Knows Video. So you can just type that into Facebook, you'll find it, and then make sure you answer the question of what realm you're in, what do you do for a living, and then you're in. That's about it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Pinky. It was fun talking with you.
You too.